Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Main suspect in Police Constable Mario Thomas's murder killed in Manchester. Improved water coming to St. Anne. And later in sports, West Indies out of ICC T20 World Cup following loss to South Africa. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. The main suspect in the murder of Police Constable Mario Thomas was shot and killed in a joint police-military operation in Manchester this morning. It's also understood that a firearm was recovered from the scene. The deceased man has been identified as 33-year-old Kerry Douglas, otherwise called Little Dog or Stickman. Deputy Superintendent of Police Kerry Duncan is head of the Manchester Police.
During the operation, a warrant was executed at a premises. On their approach, they were greeted with gunfire. The police took evasive action and returned the fire. When the shooting ended, one man was found suffering from gunshot wound. He was assisted to the Mandeville Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival.
However, relatives of the deceased, who refused to speak with us on camera, are disputing the claim that a firearm was recovered. In the meantime, this warning from DSP Duncan.
And these operations will continue. Just want to encourage the persons who may fall in the suspect category that when we come to apprehend, you do not resist, because we see what the end result can be. And when these things happen, then nobody wins.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton describes as misleading a newspaper article about the number of ventilators in the public health system and patients who are dying. Dr. Tufton says the article was written with a negative connotation, giving the wrong impression following the ministry's press briefing last week.
And that's unfortunate. We specifically outlined that a percentage of those ventilators were obsolete and were in the system, registered, but non-functional for some period of time, awaiting board of certification to be disposed of, which is a very bureaucratic process within government in disposing of expired equipment, beds, chairs, old ventilators, etc.
Dr. Tufton further clarified how the audit on ventilators was conducted by the health team.
Of the working ventilators, just under a third at the time of the audit was out of use for routine maintenance and in some instances awaiting parts. Over 100, close to 120, were actively in use at the time of the audit. Now, these numbers change on a daily basis, but generally speaking, the numbers that are actively in use represents the highest number of ventilators ever in the system.
Concerns this afternoon about the limited focus being placed on special needs in schools, with many children with learning disabilities falling through the cracks in the system. It comes as one advocate shares her experience of being diagnosed with autism late in her teens. Kalisha Williams reports.
19-year-old Khadija Baker is the deputy youth mayor of Montego Bay, part of the Youth Parliament, an advocate for people with special needs for years, but recently.
So the thing is, fun fact about me, I was not diagnosed with autism until a few months ago. I just found out that I have a high functioning autism, which I've learned since my little brother. He's 5 years old and he was diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And one of the issues that my parents were having was finding adequate schooling for him.
The deputy youth mayor explained that her major challenge was socializing, as her academic performance was good. However, she believes overall the public school system is not tailored to pick up certain disorders in children, and many times parents are left with very few and expensive specialized options.
I realized a lot that some of these peers have struggled. I myself have struggled with some issues such as public speaking, contact, picking up social cues and whatnot. And there are not a lot of advocates for these individuals, so that is what I would like to see going on.
In raising concerns at the recent Diaspora Conference in St. James, Ms. Baker also appealed for more attention to be placed on teaching sign language in schools from the primary level.
I don't really see people being able to learn it, and there are opportunities for students to learn it. I remember, for example, when I was in primary school thereabouts, when we were learning stuff about cursive and all of those stuff that wasn't really necessary for the development of a child and whatnot.
In response, Permanent Secretary in the Education Ministry, Dr. Kassan Troop, accepts that there are gaps in the system in identifying students with learning disabilities and other special needs. However, she explained that the ministry will be changing the narrative by clinically assessing students who underperform in the grade 5 and 6 exams.
Education psychologist assessment that will look at their IQ and look at what kind of diagnosis they may have in terms of learning disabilities, whether it's intellectual. So they will tell us what they need, and then the report tells us how do we educate this child. Now we have to train teachers to do that as well, because we cannot exceed the quality of our institutions by not working with our teachers.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
After a heated demonstration for water a few months ago, residents and business operators in Brownstown and its environments are expected to benefit from improved supply before the new school term begins. Details in this report. Over $80 million is being spent to get a regular water supply back to the people of Brownstown and surrounding areas in St. Ann. This following the collapse of a section of the old well at Minnard in the parish, which led to a heated demonstration in April. The well supplied some 30,000 residents in and around that area. But once completed in August, more residents will be added to the new well. The well is being drilled at 800 feet, 100 feet deeper than the existing one, and is expected to yield 2 to 3 million gallons of water per day. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who toured the facility last Friday, noted that there are challenges in getting potable water to some communities.
Many of these communities have sprung up over time, long before there were any plans to put water supply. Some of these communities have grown beyond what the water supply was when they were formed. Some of these communities are unplanned.
He also noted that due to the remote nature of some communities, it will be a very costly undertaking to get the commodity to some Jamaicans. But he says the government will be doing what it can to ensure all Jamaicans get access. He's also urging citizens to be careful of naysayers.
Because there is a competition, a serious competition, a battle for your mind. It's a battle of narratives. One narrative is that not now one. And if you listen to that narrative, you go home depressed and feel that there is nothing happening in Jamaica.
In the meantime, Minister with responsibility for water, Matthew Samuda, while noting that there are other projects in the pipeline for the parish of St. Ann, noted that the western section of the parish stands to benefit from increased water flow in the coming months.
We expect to break ground later this year, Prime Minister, on the new wells at Jordan in central St. Mary. Now, this will supply some 30,000 people in St. Mary. But how does that impact the people in St. Ann? Well, what that means, Your Worship, and Councillor Isaacs, is that the plant at White River will now pump solely westward, because you'll have sufficient source water coming from the Jordan wells, coming all the way to the White River pump. So instead of pumping eastward and westward, you get to concentrate your sources in a smaller area, which makes your water supply more reliable.
Both Mr. Holness and Mr. Samuda were speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for the laying of water pipes in the retreat community. Mayor of Port Maria Fitzroy Wilson says preparation for the hurricane season is off to a fairly good start. He says millions have already been spent to clean most drains in flood-prone areas across the parish.
As we speak, we have expended over $19 million in the past month for drain cleaning, spanning all 13 divisions in the St. Mary Municipal Corporation. So we have far ahead in preparation for the hurricane season.
Mayor Wilson added that the municipality is well advanced in ensuring emergency supplies are in place.
We have also checked on our emergency supplies as it relates to if there's a hurricane and we need to go in and do our work or to activate our emergency centers. We've also checked on our shelter areas, or shelter managers, the shelter team. We've also inspected the shelters to make sure that they are in keeping with what the regulation or requirements are for those areas to be shelters.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The St. Catherine Municipal Corporation is investigating the establishment of a private cemetery without the corporation's approval. The CEO made the disclosure recently.
It is in, I don't remember the name of the person, but it is not government, it's not ours. So I know we are trying to see if we can find the owner for this property.
The investigation comes amid growing concerns about the lack of space to bury the dead in the parish. Mayor of Spanish Town, Norman Scott, says a team from the corporation will be probing if the land was originally earmarked for that purpose.
I've gone there. Several councillors have gone there. And with a view, I don't know what is their intent, but I will say that this council is going to make sure that whatever was the original establishment remain constant.
And it's now time for the Business Minute.
The division water, housing, electricity, gas and other fuels saw a rise of 0.6% in the Consumer Price Index CPI for May 2024. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin says there was a 2.3% increase in the category electricity, gas and other fuels. This was mainly due to higher electricity rates. The rate of inflation for the division saw a decline of 1.6% in the group water supply and miscellaneous services relating to the dwelling. Statin says this was primarily due to lower water and sewage rates. The point-to-point inflation rate was 3.8%. Further afield, one of Chicago's most popular tourist attractions is once again open to the public. The Beam sculpture reopened on Sunday. It was closed nearly a year for renovation. Gates closed off the sculpture for the public while workers made much of the repairs. Those gates are now gone and people can now get an up-close view of the iconic artwork, also known as Cloud Gate. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Carrie Simpson.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Guyana's Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony has warned that pharmacists who sell antibiotics without requiring prescriptions will have their operations closed down. He also disclosed that a new law is coming to deal with the sale of counterfeit medication. Addressing the Guyana Pharmacists Association's 21st annual convention on Sunday, Dr. Anthony said his ministry had received reports about some pharmacists selling antibiotics to patients without prescriptions. He warned that that is in violation of the law. On the international scene, 3 days of mourning have been declared in Russia's North Caucasus region of Dagestan following an attack by gunmen on a church, synagogue and police post that killed dozens. The death toll from the attacks has risen to 19. At least 15 police officers died alongside several civilians, including an Orthodox priest. 5 attackers were also reported to have been liquidated. At least 12 people were also injured in the attacks. And a fire at a lithium battery factory in South Korea has killed at least 22 people, most of them foreign nationals, on Monday. The blaze broke out at a facility operated by battery maker Aricel in Hwangsong. It was extinguished and firefighters were able to enter the factory. Among the dead, 2 were Koreans and 20 were foreigners, the majority of whom were Chinese nationals. Rescue workers recovered a number of burnt bodies. 1 person died due to cardiac arrest. And those are the top regional and international stories. I'm Hal Shane Burke.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.